All right, episode 33, I think it is today, boys. We got Sean from the Shaka. And we got Dan the Rock Dawson.
What's going on, guys?
How are you, brother?
Yeah, good to see you guys. Good to see you.
Me too.
Good to be on.
Yeah, well, it's been a while for you, Dan. I mean, you and I have been planning to get you onto the podcast for a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Yeah, we've just both been lots of different things going on, and but yeah, it's good to finally get it on.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah,
bro. Yeah. And then I get a text message last night. No, sorry, a phone call or a voice message last night. And Sean's like, I'm arriving tonight, man. Can we do the podcast tomorrow? Or was that Sunday actually? And
Sunday might have been. Yeah. I stuffed you around a little bit, but we made it here. I got in early this morning on a horrible flight from Melbourne to Perth, but we're here now, so happy to be here.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate you coming over here, man, and finding the time. I mean, you've got your gala coming up. We'll get stuck into that. I want to know all about it. I want to know all about the Shaka. I want to know about how it started and your journey about mental health. And Dan, most people in WA know your background, I guess, in fighting. But, you know, even fighting aside, man, we know the mental challenges that come with that, bro. Yeah, and being a father and running a gym. And
and I think just being alive in this world, in this crazy world, man.
Yeah.
You know, like finding a way and what is it being a man, and just what does it mean to just be yourself in this world, you know?
Yeah.
A lot to that, you know.
There is, hell of a lot. Absolutely.
What does it mean to be a man?
Oh, mate.
We have the spot, Shorty. I'm glad you looked at Sean. I was like,
we're starting with the big questions.
Look, your turn's coming, Danny.
The definition of that's probably changed over the last 20, 30 years. I think that's a great thing. I think it's a really great thing that it has changed. Go back 20, 30 years, to be a man was to, be tough, be durable, get on with it, get through it, battle on, work hard and all that sort of stuff, which is great. It's great to work hard, great to, show your strength and your masculinity and all that sort of stuff too. But I think over time we've sort of discovered that strength comes from vulnerability and being vulnerable and having those emotions and expressing emotions is quite possibly the strongest thing we can do. So I think, to answer what it means to be a man, I think it just, to be yourself, to be authentically yourself as well. If you want to be vulnerable and open and express your feelings and you do that, then you are doing the very best job you can do. So I think that's a good way to put it is just to be open, be vulnerable, be yourself, be authentic, and try and, as Danny said, get through this crazy world as men, which can be hard things, a hard thing to do at times. But I think we've made a lot of progress since 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about it before this podcast and like the awakening of this mental health space, it is slowly, the conversations are getting more and more and a little bit more vulnerable and open, but personally speaking, to navigate yourself through that it can be quite tough, I mean, like even with this podcast, for instance, to be vulnerable on here, knowing that this is what I got to do and have these conversations, especially when you're used to not being talking openly and things like that, sometimes it could be a hard sort of process to navigate through, although we know that we're meant to do it, have those conversations, but to really let go. So what is
it's the hardest thing in the world to be open, to be vulnerable. And I think it's we've a lot of, again, men have been taught that that's the wrong thing to do, over that stigma of mental health and expressing feelings. So to be told, majority of your life not to do it and then come out and do it on a public platform or on social media or on a podcast, it's a tough thing to do, but it's also something that can help, one person, two people, 10 men, 20, 100 people. It shows so much strength and openness. And I think the biggest thing when you do it, it allows other people to feel validated when it comes to their own mental health. There's been many times I've been listening to a podcast on mental health or on, mindset and stuff like that. And I just think, oh my God, someone gets it. What they just said, that's exactly what I think. I'm not crazy. I'm not losing my mind. So if this person can say it, that must mean that my feelings, my emotions are validated. So that means, they matter, and I can go do something about it.
And how crazy is that though, man? Like I was at the Amend workshop just on Sunday gone. And even with some of the other events that I've done in the men's circle space and things where that, like when you have that opening of men's circles, or even if it's in conversations like this on a podcast, how you can relate to someone else's story, and you sort of think it was unique to yourself, but you're like, fuck, and then it gives the opportunity to other people go, fuck, man, I actually know what you're going through there, man.
100%. Yeah. I think it's when you're in a public space and you're able to tell your story, and it does allow those people to not feel alone in what they've been through and what they're going through, and that sort of continues the conversation on too, because they sort of go on to, all right, now I can speak about it, and then someone else gets inspired, and now they can speak about it. And such an amazing flow-on effect.
Having that happen, like having people see this happen in like, say everything on social media, but having people see it happen, I think it's huge, because there's so much confusion and fear around what our expectations, or who we think we're supposed to be, because we look at where we've come from, and the generation before us, the generation before that, like where we've come from down our lineage, like this was not. Our parents weren't fortunate enough to go through this, a lot of them, and our parents' definitely weren't going through this sort of, and have this opportunity to sort of speak vulnerably like this, and speak with authenticity about how they're feeling, where they're at, and what's real to them, like how they really feel and where they're really at. Like you talked about, there's an expectation of, be tough, get on with it, I had to get on with it. I just had to toughen up and sort of move through this, and that was my way. So I've sort of been taught down to you, and now I'm in this state of confusion now, like a bit, like, okay, well, that's what I've known growing up, but now we're sort of entering this new stage, and I'm trying to figure out, well, where do I fit in? How do I be? Like, how do I really want to be? And I was thinking about it before when you were saying it, and I just looked at the table and I went, fucking real. Like how do I want to be? I just like fucking real. Like I want to be. I want to be real, my real self. What am I? Like just be that.
Well, it's actually happening right now. Like, because even you just talking about it, that you're going through this new identity change.
Yeah,
I'm going through it as well, man. Like, and it's, but I think that is just always an ongoing journey, really. I mean, we're always, because we are just men of growth and discovery and creativity and stuff like that. We're always going to keep learning and growing, And I think that's it. Once you actually sort of let go of the idea of having an identity or the past, and you do actually let go, then it's like fucking it's just like a running river, isn't it? Like, I mean, you've got all these different things that can, I guess, come into your life, man.
Absolutely, and I think that identity thing's really big too when it comes to the path that you choose in your life. Often we go to school, or we might go to university, and then we get a job and we do this, and we sort of set that path. And I've been in it personally myself, where I was in a path, and 10 years in I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. And you're like, the scariest thing to do is get off that path, because everyone knows what path you're on. Everyone knows you as that person on that path. And you're like, shit, if I leave this path, what are people going to think? And am I going to fail, or am I going to, just crash into a crazy brick wall and not going to be able to do anything? So that identity thing, especially when it comes to mental health and being vulnerable, is huge. And we see it all the time, big burly men that, grew up with the idea that they have to be tough and have to be durable. And as soon as they understand and realise, no, I can be vulnerable, it's the hardest thing for them, but they understand that it's something they need to do. And deep down, I say this all the time, deep down, every single male in Australia, around the world, has this little thing inside them that thinks, I need to be vulnerable, but it's so scary to get that out. So hard to get out.
Just on this note, man, so what's it like? I mean, what's it like in the fight industry, bro?
Well,
the fighting industry,
I'm going to say, I'd say it now, like, extraordinarily, like, I fought for 28 years, at a high level, which is it's a ridiculous long time for any athlete, really. But there was goals I wanted to achieve, and there was still a love and passion for doing it. But on the flip side, there was the fear of like I was known, let's say I've been doing it for 10, 15 years, 20 years, like I was known for that. That's who I was. And it wasn't so much about what's everyone going to think about, if I retire or, I probably could have retired 10 to 15 years before I did, really. Like, when I look back on it now, I think, damn, what were you doing, bro? Like, I think, but
it happens a lot, though, doesn't it, man?
Yeah. It was just, it was hard to let go of my identity that I'd created for myself, and that was the biggest thing, was to let go of that. This ego or whatever it is, like, it was hard to let go of that. I think it was more the fear of, what do I do? Who am I now? What am I now then? Like, that's all I've ever known. That's all I was ever good at. Like, that's all I was. Well, when I look at it like
Come
that,
on, mate, there's got to be another thing.
Yeah, well, that's how you think, though. You put those thoughts in your head, and I was thinking that way. Like, looking back on it now, I go, fuck, I could do just about anything. If you can do that, you could pick up just about anything and do it. Like, there's not much as harder than that. Having to fight people for a living. Like, that's crazy. So looking at that, and I think, okay, there's so much attachment we have to our identity, and what I've worked on. There's two things really, like doing some self work. Doing some work on yourself to find out who you really are. What letting go of your ego and your identity, and learning to be just present. Like, and I know that sounds so simple, but learning to just be present and go, okay, what do I want to do? What makes me happy, and just do what makes me happy in a way. Like, it's that simple. Figure it out, work out what to do, and do what makes you happy. Like that was a big one for me. And then other people around me, and it was my children that started it, and then it's the business and co-workers and friends and family. But other people around me and their children started it, was not having to be a certain way, like how I was brought up, or having to be a parent how my parents were parents, or was going, no, hang on, like, let's just be present. What's needed here? And I had to, like, I had to kick myself a few times, just go, no, what I said there is not right. Like, the way I acted is not, it doesn't agree with who I am. So why did I do it? And I go back, I even, like, ask my kid, I apologize. Sorry, Dad, was being a jerk then. Like, the way I said that, the way I did this, like, my kids will say, yeah, Dad apologizes when he's wrong, when he's silly, when he does, they call it being silly, he's being too grumpy, But I'll own. I'll just say, hey, I sort of screwed that up. I was thinking this way, that's why I said it, and I actually think it could be this way and could be better. So let's work on it that way, Yeah. And man, the change, I think, in the people around you, when you just be present and not on autopilot from your conditioning, is incredible. That's a big change. And how do you do it? You be authentic, like, just own your shit.
Yeah, and I like that you said being still, being silent. You got to do it, man. Like, we're so fucking distracted. I mean, for me,
man.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do. I reckon being alone and being silent and not distracted is one of the fucking hardest things to do.
Yeah.
But I think that's where a lot of the lessons, or a lot of this sort of work or understanding of new identity comes from, man. And the more you can practice it, I guess there's like meditation and things, but I even sometimes look at meditation with reading books as a distraction for me as well now, man.
Yeah.
I sort of sit there and go, you're reading a book or a podcast, or, but being alone, like nothing.
Yeah, yeah. And that probably as well, with that being alone and that, authentic, I think, especially in the world of social media, a lot of people are living their life for validation too. So a lot of people are living a life that they absolutely fucking hate, but it looks good on social media. It makes them look, successful. It makes them look popular. All that sort of stuff. And I've got close mates that I know that they are wildly unhappy, and they're doing all these jobs, they're doing all these things on social media, which I know that they hate. They just despise it, but it's just about that, getting that sort of validation that, all right, this is the identity that I want to make, and if I do it on social media, I'm going to get validation. So that must mean it's good. It must mean it's for me.
Yeah,
it must mean it's my path. But I think if you being alone is a really big thing. Doing things, whether it's starting a business or starting a podcast or whatever it might be, and doing it alone and just you and not putting it out there for validation. Validate yourself. Just pat yourself on the back. Think, fuck, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You've started this business. It's not on social media. You're not flaunting it everywhere, but it's doing well. You're doing all these sort of things. Good on you. Pat yourself on the back, except for putting it out there. And when you put it out there and nothing comes back, you think, oh, well, that's a failure. I won't do it anymore. So that self-validation of being alone, I think, is super powerful.
And also, like what Dan said as well, like when you fuck up, which we all fuck up, you're stupid to think that we're not going to fuck up. And I also think if you're not fucking up, then you're not giving it anything a crack.
You're not doing anything.
You're not doing anything. Yeah. But ownership, man, I liked how you said, you're that self-aware that if you fuck up, you put your hand up, you make it better and you move on.
Yeah, and at the same time, because you can beat yourself up too, but it's like own your stuff and go, cool. I'm human, cool, and I'm trying. Fuck, and then congratulate yourself for your stuff up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, no, seriously, you screwed up because you're trying hard, and then you're able to acknowledge it and you're aware of it. That's even awesome. You go, okay, cool. Well, man, I'm human. I make mistakes. Keep trying. Good on you, man.
You would have
pat yourself on the back.
You would have had to adapt a lot of that, though, being a professional athlete or fighter as well.
Yeah.
Like learning to self-analyze yourself in a healthy way.
Yeah, definitely.
And adapt to new, I think new strategies. And
you have to continually find ways to get problem solved. It's a game, like pretty physical game, but it's a game of problem solving constantly. Like the split-second decision. So yeah.
So in those moments, man, when you're getting absolutely, I don't know, fucking, because I look at fighting, I love it, man.
You love to watch it.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it.
Definitely.
I've done a bit of sparring, bro. That's fucking enough, man. Even sparring's fun until you get punched in the face and then you...
I look at it now, man. I watch it. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting in there doing that.
Yeah. What's a story you can tell us, bro? And trying to relate it to. So, I look at a lot of mental health as fighting. Sort of like when you're getting punched and it feels like you're getting backed into a corner and smacked in the face, and that you just got to come out of it. And also I relate to if you've got a good corner. That you're going to get through that fight. And sometimes I look, there's a heaps of sort of sayings I reflect back to boxing or fighting, And
yeah, man. I like that. I like that question. And there's two things. Sean touched on it before. Before we go into sort of an experience in the fight, but I'll just say you talked about it in the corner, and I think being vulnerable and being yourself, being real and just being yourself and just going for life, good, bad, whatever, however it goes, get up and just keep going. It's a lot easier to do when you realize you've got a support network. I feel anyway, I feel like it's easy when, and a support network can be people around you, it can be brothers around you, it can be people you mix with, it can be a podcast you watch, it can be, there's also, I remember in Thailand, I just felt I was distant from my family, and I was growing up. I was 16. I went there to live there and train and fight, and so I left. I left high school and I left my country and never been there. And went over there at 16 just to fight and earn money doing something that I love to do and just followed a passion, which is, I think, that's crazy, But
that's cool though.
Man. And then but I just remember feeling so alone at times, and there was just to me it was we didn't have much internet or anything back then. I just had all my hip hop albums, I had all my Tupac and Snoop Dogg. I had all these hip hop albums, but that was like my brotherhood almost. You know what I mean? It was just something I tuned into and listened to, and I got inspiration. I got something from it. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. This, you can get that sort of connection from anywhere, really. You just got to keep your eyes open and get it, and whatever resonates with you, go for it. But going back to that line, having support and being in the ring, I remember having a fight in Perth. It was in Perth against another guy that was a world champion, and it was a boxing fight. And I remember before the fight feeling like I wasn't doing well, because I wasn't hitting all my marks in training. I wasn't hitting all the things that I thought I should be hitting. Wasn't hitting those points. Wasn't getting to the right spots. Whether I had things going on, battling a few things, whatever it was, right? But I just wasn't meeting my own expectations. And I remember going in feeling a bit like, oh, I got to, like I want to go. I'm going to go for it. I know, like I'll always give it my all. Like I'm going to go for it, but I don't know how well it's going to go, And I remember being in there and getting to that point, and he started ripping into my body. And I remember it's so weird, like how you feel going into an event or anything, how you feel going into it will always sort of come out in it, And that's whether it's boxing, a fight, a date, a catch up, a meet, a coffee, like it could be anything, how you feel going in there.
That is true,
the
bro.
energy you take in with it is what's going to be apparent there in that situation. And I remember it got to that point where he'd hit me and it hurt, and I was like, oh, and I felt that feeling like, oh, I don't know if I've done enough work, or I don't know if I've done enough of the right. I haven't done enough of the right things to beat this guy, to win this fight. And I just and I got hit again, and it really hurt. And I just had a flash and went, but like I never give up. Like I always go for it. And that what that was me not relying on what I've done in the past to tell me how good I'm going to do in the future. It was me relying on my values of who I am. But like really simple, who am I? I'm a guy that does not give up. I always keep trying. So instead of like thinking about how well I'm doing by my past performances, what this is now teaching me looking back on this fight is that I can dictate how my future is going to go by my values, by what I value, by my values of who I am.
Fuck, I like that.
It's like back to basics, isn't it? You do all this training, and then in that moment you think, fuck, just go back to what I know that I'm good at, and then
that's
left,
it.
right, good night.
That's it. So it's a story for us to let go of. Again, like we talked about egos and successes, past failures or past wins. Like to let go of that, just rest on your values. Like, are you a good person?
I just want to thank you for saying that, bro, because there's just me, what I'm going through at the moment, bro.
Yeah.
And it's like how, and through your past, you start to judge things. And how do I explain this? So, like, I mean, I've had a successful business and money and things like that, and now where I'm at life, I'm just trying to give an example here. Like the podcast and starting up this charity and running these events and things that I'm doing, that's not a monetary, I guess, outcomes. Like when you got business, like money, that's how you measure your success is through money because, like business. And that's what I've been used to for like the last 20 odd years. Well, 15 years. And then to be doing something like this, which obviously I'm pushing it, like I'm trying to push it that way, but because the success is more measured through audience and who's getting the right message across and who's it helping and supporting and stuff like that. And that's where you should be. That's where I should be measuring it off. But sometimes because of the money part of it, component's not in it. It's a really hard way to navigate through it, man. So sometimes, like what you're saying is if you're just leaning on like who you are as like your principles and your values and and leaning on that, man, is Well, that's what I'm getting.
What's important to you and what makes you happy, man. I think we lose that, hey? Like,
for sure.
A lot of time we lose that. Like
the purpose.
We talked about it before, like chasing status, chasing cars, money, the job, this to that. Like, we sort of lose that a little bit in our identity,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big thing. And you're obviously a parent. I'm a father as well. And I think, before I started the project, I was a gym owner as well. So I had a couple of gyms and stuff. And I was the same. I was like, all right, I've got to make these successful. I've got to earn a bucket load of cash, big old house, nice shiny car. And then it took me a little bit to realise that the only thing that genuinely made me happy was being home and hanging out with the kids and my daughter paint my nails and kicking footy with my little man and all that sort of stuff too. Like once you realise what success is, we have all these things on social media with 25-year-olds driving around in these brand new cars. That's great. I've been in that mindset before. That's awesome. But I think when you get to that pivotal moment where you realise what success is. That stuff, all that stuff, just takes an absolute backseat. You know, we might have an event that we lose a bit of money on, but I'll be like, we've impacted 100 people. You know, we've been able to get to 100 new people in New South Wales or in WA and stuff like that. And now I get to go home and see my little girl. So it's I think it shifts. It definitely shifts. But I think it's also a good thing to have that state of mind of success. Materialistic, because it gives you that moment of thinking like that, and then when you get out of it, you think, all right, I've had that, I've realised that I've pushed through that, I've realised that this is exactly what I want, and that's when you almost start your second life, isn't it? You sort of think, all right, well, now I'm going to do this because this is what generally makes me happy, and this is my success. You know, that stuff is all cool, but this stuff makes me feel good. That's my passion. So,
and just on that note, Sean, what is your passion, brother?
Mate.
Let us tell us your story, bro. Tell us why you're over here in Perth first, man.
So I'm over here at the moment. We've got our mental health awareness ball coming up in a couple of weeks, which is great. It's going to be an amazing event. Every single year for the last couple of years, we've done events like this. Last year we were in New South Wales. The year before we were in Victoria. So we're just doing a bit of a state hop.
That's awesome, man.
And hopefully get up to sunny Gold Coast next year. So, essentially with our awareness events, it is just a night to ignite the conversation around mental health. And it's always a really amazing night. We get super vulnerable. I think when you think about, a gala, everyone's like, oh yeah, beautiful, we'll go there, a few charity auctions, we'll have a drink, have a dance. We have all that, but we also have, 50% of it is, all right, let's get fucking real about mental health. Let's have this discussion too. And, I want people to have a good time, absolutely, but I also want people to leave that function understanding and knowing that it's up to us now to continue this conversation on, and I want them to go to work the next week, and that person that they don't chat to, very often that might seem like they're going through something, they can have that conversation. They go back to their footy club and say, right, what are we doing about mental health with our players? Go back to the work site. What are we doing about employees? Because we need to do more. So it's a pretty impactful night. It's a really, really great night, and I think that sort of goes back to my passion, is just getting this conversation around mental health, especially men's mental health, suicide awareness, as loud as we possibly can. It's been something I've done for 5 years now, and it's a really tough thing to do. We deal with people that lose fathers, sons, mothers, sisters, partners, and it's fucking heartbreaking. Yeah. It is absolutely heartbreaking, and unfortunately, the statistics are not getting any better. And that's the hardest thing about it. That's the hardest thing.
How did it start? You say 5 years ago, like
So
how did it start for you?
It started for me when I was a gym owner. Since I was 15, I've always been I've had mental health personally in my life since I was 15. So when I got into the gyms, whenever we did like fundraisers and stuff like that, it was always for mental health. It was always something I was passionate about. And I remember one year we did a treadmill challenge. So we got everyone on the treadmill for 24 hours, just 24 hours straight. It was the most exhausting 24 hours of my life. I did about 4,500 bloody steps. And it was just, it was unreal. But after the event, we raised about 10 grand and we donated it to a charity. And I won't say who they are, but once we donated it, we got a really generic email and it was just said, thanks for your donation. And I got this and I thought, fuck, that sucks. We had people at this event that came and opened up about their stories. They were vulnerable. We had men crying, people, giving up their hard-earned money, hard-earned time, and it was just a generic email. And I get it. I do get that. This charity is a nationwide charity, but that sort of inspired me. I thought, well, what can I do to create something that we can have a little bit more of a personal impact, that we can target the milk shop owner, the footy player, the police officer, the FIFO worker, all across Australia and New Zealand and beyond, and really get something personal going. That we can really target as many people as we possibly can and make it a community create a conversation that can quite literally save lives. And I got the idea for T-shirts and for hoodies. And the idea was, you know, if we can get people wearing T-shirts around the street with a Shaka on it, that's like a permission slip. You know, if I go down the street and see someone wearing a Shaka T-shirt, automatically I know that they have empathy and understanding for mental health. That's an icebreaker. Straight away I can go after the person and say, hey, mate, you don't know me, but love your shirt. I know it's about mental health. I want to have a chat. And we've been blessed. You know, we've had so many stories of people in random pubs, you know, just sitting there having a beer, and a random bloke would come up and be like, mate, love your shirt. Sit down. We'll have a chat. You know,
sweet.
You wouldn't get that.
Awesome.
You don't go into a random pub and just have a beer with a random bloke. But we've heard so many amazing stories of people out in public, at airports, at footy games, at concerts, wearing a Shaka T-shirt and igniting conversations. And that's what it's all about. It's a permission slip. It's a conversation starter. And it's something that we can really sort of ignite that conversation as much as we possibly can. Makes people feel not alone. That's the biggest thing. You know, I even on the way here on the at Melbourne Airport this morning, there was a guy wearing a Shaka hoodie, which you know, it's great. You know, for me, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. That's my brand. But also, I'm like, God damn, that's brave. Like this guy is going out in public with a big sign above his head saying, either I have suffered mental health, I do suffer mental health, but I give a shit about mental health. And you know, when I see people wearing it, I just think you are just the bravest kind of bloke, because you've just got this big neon sign saying, talk to me, I know it's real, I suffer, and I'm here to chat to. So that was a big idea, and that's really my passion, is just to continue that conversation, change the stats on suicide. That, as I mentioned before, the stats are scary, they're heartbreaking, they're getting worse. So if we can change the stats, save our mates, that's what we're passionate about.
So
Awesome,
there's fucking awesome, bro, and thanks for sharing that as well, man. Like I've got a few questions, bro.
Go for it.
Do you have any questions?
You go.
Yeah. You know, because like if we put ourselves in that position where we've either got something that's going on in our lives, but we don't want to put that burden onto somebody else. And also if there's someone that's receiving that conversation, so Sean's got, you've opened up to me about something that's going on in your life, you know, sometimes that person doesn't, you know, like, you know, it's sort of like what to do with that. You know, and I think that's what's also has to be comfortable about as well. And I mean, one thing that I've learned is that sometimes people don't need you to go and do anything about it.
Yeah,
I think it's just being there and just knowing that they've got someone that to talk to. I mean, that they might wake up the following morning and being fucking sweet as, but just to know that they've got someone there that they can call as well.
For sure.
But what's your sort of?
We have 3 steps that we talk about, and the very first one is you must make sure that you're okay first. So we used a bit of the idea, you know, when you're on an airplane and they say, you know, if oxygen mask falls, you've got to put it on yourself before you put it on the kids. Now, any father would be like, no, I'm saving my kids. But then you realise, I can't save my kids if I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when it comes to mental health. So if you yourself are struggling and you can see a mate struggling, you can't do that check-in. And, you know, you look at that from the outside, well, no, you got to love your mates, you got to look after your mates. You've got to look after yourself first. And that doesn't mean that we don't check in. It simply means, all right, myself, I'm struggling at the moment, but I need to go chat to another friend and say, hey, I've noticed, you know, Danny's going through something. He seems like he's having a rough trot. Me, myself, right now, can't do it right now. I'm going through my own thing, but hey, can you have a chat to him? Or who do we think can have a chat to him? That is one of the most important things when it comes to the conversation, and having that and asking that question, you know, are you okay? You must make sure you're okay first before you do it. You know, you can't fill up somebody else's cup if yours is empty or broken. So that's the first thing. The second thing I mentioned before is validation. Validation's massive. You know, if we go up to a mate and say, hey, you know, are you okay? And they turn around and say, I've broken up with the missus and work really sucks. Now, if we turn around and say, mate, plenty more fish in the sea, she wasn't that good, and you're on a shitload of money, so what does it matter? You know, which is a very common male conversation.
Yeah.
Good points, though. No.
Good. But straight away, what we're doing is saying, hey, your shit doesn't matter. Yeah, what you're going through doesn't matter. It's not important enough for you to be going through depression about, or going through anxiety about, or whatever it is. And straight away, we're making that person think like, oh, I must be fucking crazy. I must be losing it. But if we turn that around and say, hey, mate, you know, breakups suck. We've all been through breakup before. They suck. They're horrible. You know, do you want to talk about it? And hey, what's going on with work? Can you chat to a manager? Can you chat to, you know, someone higher up about what's going on? Straight away, that validation is giving them that idea that, hey, maybe my shit does matter. Yeah, maybe something that I'm experiencing. Because I guarantee, you know, if all of us in the room right now close our eyes, we'll think of 3 or 4 things that are stressing us out. I guarantee us we'll all say, yeah, but it's not that important. It's not that big. Someone's got it worse. You know, that attitude, your shit matters. Whatever it is you're going through, it absolutely matters. And if you feel like you need to go and speak to someone, a GP, a psychologist, psychiatrist, Lifeline, whatever it might be, you need to do that. You know, you're not going to call Lifeline and they're going to be like, what do you mean you broke up with your girlfriend? That's not important enough to call us. You know, hang up. And that's just not how it works. So validation is super important. And the number one thing, which is what you said at the end there, is sometimes the best thing that we can do is just be there, is just be an ear. My parents are a great example. My dad's been a mental health sufferer. He's what I suppose inspired this whole project for a very, very long time. And my mum loved it to death, but she probably doesn't understand it as much as my dad. So a really good example is when I'm going through something, and I actually went through a pretty rough patch last year, and I remember sending a big text message to both mum and dad, a separate text message. And mum's reply, mum's a fixer. You know, she replies a fucking essay with, all right, you need to do this, you need to get back to this, do that, you need to speak to this, do that. And then my dad replied with, I get it. That's all he said. You know, this fucking 150-word text message I sent him, and all he replied was, I get it. I looked at mum's, I'm like, oh, fuck. I looked at dad's, I'm like, thank fuck. Yeah, someone gets it.
Fuck, that's pretty powerful, bro.
It is.
Isn't that powerful? Yeah.
It's just, it just straight away, and that's validation as well. You know, for someone just to say, I get it, I'm like, fuck, you know, I'm not losing my mind.
Yeah.
The things I'm going through are important enough. And, you know, I told mum this, and she wasn't too happy with it, but I told mum this. I said that was the message from dad, the 3-word message from dad pulled me out of that a lot quicker than doing all this sort of stuff. And it's great to, you know, give advice. It's great to say, hey, why don't you go back to the gym? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But sometimes just being that ear and say, hey, mate, look, you know, I'm here. If you want to have a chat, I'm here. You know, instead of saying, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You got to do this. You got to do that. Just be an ear. You know, just be someone that can build a relationship around mental health. And if you can get a message like that, like I got from my dad, it can change a conversation, and ignite a conversation.
Man, I tell you what, man, like that's some amazing information, really. Like to the listeners and that, you know, that's something. Right, like go back, write it down as well. Like you look at like sort of 3 steps there that you sort of look through, and I think about the first one is like tribe. You know, like well, I'll just give you my perspective. You know, from what you said. The first one is like tribe. Like okay, I can't do this right now, but who have I got around me? Who do I know that can? And that's connection, that's community, that's cohesion. It's bringing everyone together. It's helping out the tribe. You know what I mean? And that's what we do. Like I think we do it naturally most of the time. You know, we're all meant to be. We're all meant to be around each other. You know, we're all born like that. And then which is awesome. So it means it's not always on you to step up and do whatever. Like if you're having a day that you haven't, that's cool, but you can step out and ask someone else to go in and take that spot. And that's a team, that's a tribe. Fuck, I love that.
Yeah.
And then the second one was validate. And I love this too. Like, is it, you know, like I've been learning from my mistakes. I've made so many of them, but learning from my mistakes of
I understand
with the kids, you know, like to validate how they feel, because that's not how I grew up, you know. But to rewire myself through my mistakes and then realizing, okay, and then what's working, what's not working. Okay, cool. Rewiring myself to validate how they feel, and then we do that, and like, you know, how you feel is how you feel. Like, it's not, oh, it just sort of, you know, you get past it, or, oh, well, you got this last week, or you've got that other thing, or you got that other toy. Why are you worried about this one? Or that to them, that could be the biggest thing in their whole life. That moment, that could be their biggest moment. The biggest thing in their life right now is that thing that you're just dismissing.
Yeah.
You know, like to us, that could be the job that you've always been waiting for that you never got, or, you know, that they lost a toy, you know, or got broke. Like, that could be the biggest thing in their life. You don't know. And then, yeah, so having that, validating how someone feels, I think, fuck, that's because it's just, you feel heard. Like, you feel like you're not alone.
I think that's it, man. Like,
you know?
feeling heard.
Yeah.
Fuck, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Someone heard you.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, you know, a good sort of way to look at it is, you know, people that suffer anxiety, you know, especially social anxiety, you know, you might be in the middle of the pub or a gym or whatever, and you stand there and your mind's racing and you're thinking, fuck, everyone's having a good time and I'm losing my mind. But what you don't understand is that 90% of the people in the room are thinking the same thing. But if you had a bit of a sign on everyone's head that says, this is what I'm thinking, you'd be like, oh, fuck, it's so much more comfortable in here because everyone's losing their fucking mind. Yeah. You know, so it makes them feel less alone. It makes them feel like they can discuss what they're going through. And what you said, you know, especially with kids, you know, my daughter does the same thing. She has this teddy bear that she sleeps with every single night. And whenever she doesn't have it, it's just an absolute nightmare. And you just think, oh, come on, like, you got other bears, fucking hell. But it's the same thing. You're like, but that's everything to her. You know, that's her comfort. That's her security and stuff like that too. So when you say, all right, no, I understand that Rabbi, that's his name, that Rabbi's the most important person in your life, so we're going to make sure we go get him. So, that validation of what people are going through, and little comments like, hey, you know, breakups suck, or hey, when you're struggling with work, how shit is that? It just makes people feel like, oh, yeah, thank fuck, someone gets it. I'm not losing my mind. I'm not, you know, losing everything. I'm not, you know, weird and out of control and all that sort of stuff too. So it is possibly, I think, the most powerful tool when it comes to mental health, when it comes to checking in with people, is just saying, hey, and even if we don't understand it, that's a big thing too. So, you know, if someone comes to me and says, oh, mate, I'm really struggling, these are these issues. Actually, I'll use it for example. I've got a really close friend that he's only just come out as bisexual, and he's 32 years of age, and when he came out, he came to me and he told me and this and that, and he, you know, told me all the struggles throughout his whole life with it, and you know, he's got a very religious family, so he couldn't tell his family and all that sort of stuff too. Now, I don't understand that. That's not my life. So I could sit there and go, oh, you know, good luck. You know, that's shit, but good luck.
But good job.
Yeah, you know, but you can just say, man, that must suck. Like, I don't understand how much it sucks because I haven't lived it. But you know, even if we don't understand it, we can at least show that whatever it is they are experiencing and going through, it's enough. You know, that's enough to go and speak to someone about, or to seek support about, or chat to me about. It's such an underrated thing, validation. Yeah, for sure.
Oh man,
the topic with the word that just come up, bro, that I just want to sort of go back to, because I don't want to skip it, because it's such a fucking massive thing among men, and I'd say females as well, is that social anxiety. And I know it comes up a lot. I know there's a few men in this room that you know can relate to it and stuff, man. And like I've recently gone sober with alcohol, and man, you fucking notice it. You notice, and like even though my drinking wasn't as, you know, binge drinking like how it used to be, and I'd just have a couple of beers, but even that couple of beers is really reliable. Like, you become reliant on having a couple of beers for that social anxiety. And I also just wanted to add, before we start talking about that topic, because I want to hear your fella's point of view on that, but also again just relating it to yourself and I mean in fighting, when you're going out in front of a lot of people with their expectation to win. You know, I mean, that's a form of social anxiety, I'd imagine. You know, like or even being on TV and So, I mean, there's like, I guess I'll ask it with a question, man. Like, what's some ways? I mean, for me, ways of dealing with it is just diving into it. So the big one for me is to just go into a pub and have your fucking cranberry juice or your 0%er and make it a normal thing. But yeah, I don't know. Have you guys got any stories or things around it?
Yeah. I've got a story, Steve, and then I want to ask you what you do. Like, so this is like for me, my own story. Like, so if you speak to any of my friends that sort of have been around me in my life, like that have been closer to me, they're like, oh, he's the life of the party. He's loud. He comes in the room. Everyone knows he's there. He's this, he's that, right? So extrovert, right? So, and I've sort of gone under the guise of, like I'm, Daniel the Rock Dawson, like, I fight and this and that and I'm cool and whatever, like, man, I'll tell you, like, no one, I suffer. My mind fucking boggles when I go into any place, anywhere. I get sweaty palms and shit, bro. I get like a hyperhidrosis or something. I have sweaty armpits and like it's been something I've battled my whole fucking life with, like going into anywhere and having to be a certain way to fit in and making sure I'm okay and not standing out and not being a fool or someone thinks I look stupid or someone thinks I talk stupid or like, man, I have all of this going through this dialogue going through my head a million miles an hour. And like you said, 90% of the people in the room, like people would think, oh yeah, like he's okay. He's just, he's like a doy. Everyone like, everyone knows it. Man, I've gone through that my whole life under the radar, you know what I mean? So you just don't know who's going through that. Like you would not know.
Do you still get it now?
That.
Or you?
No, not as much because probably a lot of work I've done on myself to feel more to forgive myself, my past, my parents, myself. That sort of work. That's a deep work. That's a whole nother conversation. But that work that I've been doing and am doing has helped relieve that a lot. 100%.
I want to talk about that too because I think I know what you're talking about.
But like. What do you do like to stop from feeling like fuck you're going to implode in your head?
It's so hard, and I think my story is my literal job is to get up in front of people and do public speaking. I've spoken to groups of 10 and I've spoken to groups of 500 people, and I do that every day, all day. I absolutely love it. I thrive off it. It makes me happy. It makes me just an energetic bunny. But put me in a pub and I'm just fucking a disaster. I was at the pub a few weeks ago with a few friends and my friend came up to me and she's like, "You right?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "Because you're looking around like just going nuts, like your head's just on a swivel." And I'm like, "Yeah, I have no idea what's going on." And then you identify it, like, "Oh, it's just a bit of anxiety, you're doing this, you're doing that." And the one thing that I come back to, and this is something that not only covers when you're in the moment, when you're at a location and you've got a bit of social anxiety, but also when it comes to social media, when it comes to comparison. A lot of people comparison. Is that a word? It's not a word. Just made up a word. Compare their life. Compare their life to others and stuff. But I always say this to myself in the nicest possible way. Nobody gives a fuck about you. So you're sitting in a room and, it's the same. When we're at a pub, we're not thinking about the bloke over there that's sitting there having a beer. We see him. So, there's a bloke over there. But we're not thinking, oh, look at this. Look at this knob. We're not thinking that. So if you think about that, you're like, well, I'm not thinking that about that bloke over there. So why would he be thinking about that about me? And I think it comes a lot with when you're in an environment, social media as well. A lot of people... they'll post for validation or they'll post what they're doing and all that sort of stuff, and that's great. You do, that's fine. But also, I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, I wonder what fucking Taylor Swift's up to." We all know what she's up to, but I'm not sitting here, obsessing over what someone's up to. And a lot of people live their life of, I need to do something to show everyone what I'm doing, or people, are going to have the wrong idea about me, or I'm not going to get that validation and all that sort of stuff too. So when it comes to those environments, I always go back to that whole thing. Nobody gives a fuck. That's a good one. In the nicest possible way.
I was literally in that situation yesterday. I was at a wake And I knew everyone, well, I knew 60, 70% of the room. But I've also been known as like a bit of like the character in the room and like the confident one, and that people say it, but no one actually knows how fucking nervous I do get and intimidated by people, which seems crazy now that we're talking on a podcast and things. But I had it yesterday. I've gone back to the wake. And I'm just finding myself talking to these people like on a real surface level, and I'm just in my head, and I'm like, I just do not want to fucking be here, and not drinking, holding my cranberry juice in my hand, and I ended up taking myself out of the wake and going and sit on the beach for like close to 2 hours, man, just because I had to get out of the fucking room, and I don't know if it was social anxiety. I was in low energy, like I said. I'd done that men's group on the Sunday, which was the day before, and you could probably hear it in my voice. I'd done like primal screaming. So I fucking, let a bit out. Yeah. But yeah, man. So it's interesting to know that. And again, you don't know what anyone else is going through. Like a lot of people would just go, it's just Dave, man. He's all right. But really in my head, I'm like freaking the fuck out, man.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's like, no one went home that day thinking, oh, Dave was a bit weird today, wasn't he? In his cranberry juice sitting on the beach. Everyone went home thinking, we went to a wake today. That was that. Yeah. But our minds tell us, oh my God, everyone's going to think I'm an absolute dick, or all these things that are rushing through our brain. And that is anxiety, that's social anxiety, that's anxiety. And we lose track of our mind, I think, when we go into those stages. We say things that we don't actually agree with, or we say things just to get a word out. And that is a big impact when it comes to being around people, being around friends, and that's why alcohol is such a big thing for people when they're in that environment, because they think, fuck, if I just get enough beers in me, I'll be numb. My brain won't tell me. That's a silly thing to say. Exactly right. Decision making.
And this is it, man. Like, I want to hear about, like, is there any tactics around that social anxiety? Well, like, I mean, when you used to go and walk out to a fight, which you've been training for, so, public speaking, but also on the alcohol thing, even sex is a big thing, man.
Sure.
And I guess the expectation of self, that how we have to perform, or fucking, or even just asking a girl out on a date, or, all that sort of stuff. Is there any sort of, I mean, did you used to get nervous or anxiety in that walking, out to a fight and would
every single time,
all the time,
man. Every single time. Yeah. You're going out in front of people to perform, and obviously, as you do it more and more, you get better at it. You get an understanding of it. You have less fear, because you sort of know what to expect each time as it gets bigger. But then the goalposts constantly change, and it's constantly changing and evolving. I think, what would I say got me through that when I look back, like, I think just being brave, like, just having that wanting to give it a go, really give it a go.
So leaning into it, man.
Like, just leaning into it. I think that really helped me a lot. And when I think about it now and look back, though, it's like, I think, I was doing it for myself, and was it for a positive reason? There was some positives to it, there was some things where it was making me feel validated, of course, but the positives of that was that at that time in my life and what I was going through, if I didn't have that sort of validation, I may have ended it, myself, like that's where I was at, so it's big story, like going through all of that, but I think, like, coming back to what we're saying before, like
having that corner and
self chatter, like that self talk is worse than what's actually externally happening.
For sure.
Like we just talked about it, like when you're in that room at the pub, like how many people are actually judging and analysing you, what you're wearing, how you're moving, what you're saying? Probably like 0.01%.
Exactly right.
But you're analysing it yourself, like 99% of them are, like, so it's that self-talk. And I think that's, wow, I mean, like just just maybe even us talking about that it happens to us, that it happens to anyone, to men, that happens to all men, that gets it out there and people can go, oh, okay, well, you know, Dave felt it, you know, Sean felt it, Dan felt it. Wow, they've actually felt that too. You know, like, okay, well, that's a real thing, and it happens to real men. It happens to all men.
And has there ever been a time of that because a lot of it is the unknown, I guess, and those voices that you hear in your head. Has there ever been a time where it's been worse than what you thought it is? Like, it's never as bad. Well, what I'm trying to say is it's never as bad as how my mind works anyway. It's never been as bad as what I make it out to be.
I think that's the same with everything. Like even, you know, throughout school, and, you know, you might have had a job interview, or you might have been, you know, HR called you up for a meeting in a job and stuff. And you're like, fucking hell, and you do this thing. I got taught this thing I was at an event in, I can't remember, a very, very small country town. I had about 7 people in it in New South Wales. And I went to a rugby league club there and did an event. And this guy came up to me and he started chatting. And I myself, I was going through a pretty rough stage, but I was, you know, doing these events was get me through. And he's talking to me about, you know, the way that he gets through certain things in his life. And this is just a typical Aussie country bloke. And he said to me, he's like, you know what I always do, and what a lot of my mates do? He said, we over-catastrophize the situation. And I stood there, I'm like, firstly, I don't think that's a word, but secondly, can you explain it? And he said, well, we look at a situation and we think all the bad things from it. And then we over-catastrophize it. We think how bad this is going to be for my life. And he said, let's look at a situation in your life. Is it going to take your daughter away? Well, no, it's not. Is it going to take anyone in your family members away? Well, no, it's not. Is it going to, you know, make you homeless? Well, no, it's not. Okay, well, the 3 most important things in my life are safe, so let's just deal with this. And as soon as he told me that changed the way that I looked at the situations. You know, if I'm having a rough week and I've got something coming up that I'm anxious about, you know, I think, all right, what am I actually anxious about? What is it that I'm experiencing these feelings about? And I'll take those 3 things. Is it going to affect my kids? No, it's not. Is it going to affect my lifestyle? No, it's not. Is it going to, you know, make me homeless? No, it's not. All right, those are the 3 worst things in my life that could possibly happen. They're out. So this isn't too bad. So I think that's a really powerful tool that we can use when it comes to situations like that, when we're going through that social anxiety. Okay, I feel a bit uncomfortable, but am I safe? Yeah, I'm safe. Am I with people that I trust and love? You might be with friends. Yeah, I am. And is everyone else safe? Yes, they are. Okay. That can just be a start off to sort of getting through that, I think. Just to sort of get that progress going, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure, man. You've mentioned a few times, bro, this rough patch you went through.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
What does a rough patch look like for Sean, man?
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, look, my mental health journey started when I was 12, and it started in a really amazing way, and that sounds a bit odd to say, but when I was at the age of 12, my dad, who is the strongest man on this planet, he sat my brother and I down, and he said, boys, I want to chat to you about something. And he sat us down and he said, your dad's unwell, your dad's sick. And the first thing I thought was, dad's dying, he's gone. My grandfather had a stroke and died about 2 years earlier. And as soon as he said dad's sick, I just thought, fuck, what, you know, he's I didn't know what a stroke was, what cancer was, any of that sort of stuff. But I thought he's going, just like Granddad did. And he said, I've got this thing, it's called depression. And it's something, you know, in my head and in my heart. And it just means that sometimes I'm going to be a really good dad. Sometimes I'm going to be really, probably pretty poor dad. Sometimes I may not even be here. But I want to tell you that I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be okay. Now, the minute that I knew that it wasn't cancer or stroke, 12-year-old kid, oh, well, whatever. I don't know what it is, so it's not killing him, so let's move on. Let's be a 12-year-old, you know. And I did. I got on with life. I thought, all right, well, this thing called depression, that's fine. He's not dying. That's the main thing. I didn't know about suicide. I didn't know about any of these things. And over the next few years, I saw what depression was. You know, he would go missing for 3 or 4 days. He would I remember he used to wake up in the morning, he'd sit there and eat his toast. I'd come out, hey, Dad, can we go kick the footy? No, we can't. And I'd be like, why? Why don't you want to kick footy with me? No, I can't, mate. I can't. I've got to go out. I've got to do this. I've got to go away. I've got to go do these things. I'm like, fuck, what the hell? He's just such a shit dad. And that's what I thought. I'm like, I just wanted Dad to kick the footy with me. And when I got to the age of 15, I started to go to school, wake up, and I started to feel these feelings of, fuck, I don't want to be here. I hate myself. I hate my social life. I hate school. I hate my family. I wasn't happy. And the most amazing thing happened as soon as I started feeling these emotions and started to understand these emotions. Straight away, I thought, this is what Dad has. This is what Dad spoke to me about when I was 12. And straight away, I was able to identify it. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to mental health these days. We've got a lot of people rolling around with really deep, traumatic mental health issues that we can't identify because we haven't had that conversation. And I can easily say that this conversation saved my life without a doubt. I was able to identify it. I was able to chat to Dad. I was able to go and get a mental health care plan done. And this all came from Dad normalising the conversation. And I said before how it's inspired this project and what I do now. And whenever I do events, I always point out the fathers and the parents and say, right, you've got kids. Yep. Have this conversation with them. It might be a conversation that they don't understand like I didn't, but when they start to experience it, that little thing in the back of their mind will think, fuck, that's what Dad spoke about. This is a real thing. If Dad's speaking about it, I can speak about it. So that was an amazing moment in my life, amazing couple of years. In saying that, my mental health journey started at 15. I'm 30 now, every single day. It's gone every single day.
It's gone.
As in I've experienced it every single day. Yeah. I've gone through what we speak about a lot, which is crisis mode or crisis stage, which is essentially a period of time, and it's a stage where a lot of people are in right now. A lot of people sadly haven't survived, and the crisis mode of the crisis stage is when you are completely okay, completely comfortable, and completely at ease with the thought of taking your own life. Throughout these stages, some of them went for 6 months, some of them went for 2 years, some went for 4 or 5 years. Throughout these times, if I went to the city, I couldn't stay in a high-rise hotel. Just couldn't do it. I just wasn't safe. If I went for a drive for longer than an hour and didn't, contact Mum or Dad, they'd call the police. You need to go find my son. We don't know where he is. He's in trouble. I remember I used to drive through, roundabouts and just not look, just think maybe this is it. Just go straight through. I didn't want to hurt anyone else, but maybe something will just come and take me out. And throughout that time, it's just such an easy feeling. It's like thinking about what you're having for dinner. It's like thinking about who's playing footy on the weekend. And I go back to the hotel comparison. I used to, if I went to a hotel, I'd go to the window, I'd look down and think this would be a great place to do it. And it wasn't any fear, there wasn't any uncomfortability. It was just, there was definitely moments in that period where I just accepted. I'm just like, well, one day it's going to happen. One day I'm going to get the courage to self-harm or to take my life. And it's a scary time. It's a fucking scary time. And throughout those periods, I did have suicide attempts. I spent a bit of time in hospital. And I think those moments, I can remember every single one of them vividly. I can remember the frame of mind I was in, and it inspires me every fucking day, every single day. The one moment that I speak about a lot in my events is I was in my car one Sunday afternoon and I was sitting on the side of the road and I remember sitting there, it was on sort of a dirt strip, and I looked up and in front of me about 40, 50 metres away, a massive tree. And again, that crisis mode, crisis stage mindset kicked back in. Fuck, this would be a great place to do it. And I remember sitting there, tears rolling down my face, and I just thought, Yeah, let's just do it. You know, it's simple, Sean. All you have to do is foot to the floor, go straight. That's it. And that's exactly what I did. So I slammed the foot on the accelerator. It felt like 5 minutes. It took about 5 to 6 seconds, and all of a sudden there was a massive crash, massive smash. Branches coming through my windscreen, and the first instinct is to open your eyes, slam on the brakes, and look at what's happened. And all I could see was just trees, shrubs, a massive branch through my windscreen, and the first thing I thought was, "You fucking idiot." But it wasn't you fucking idiot for doing it. It was you fucking idiot because you can't even get this right. That's how deep I was. That's how deep I was in this moment. I'm like, "You fucking idiot. All you have to do is go straight and you can't even do this." And I remember sitting there screaming, and I just thought, fuck, what happened here? All you had to do is go straight. What could have happened? And this will give you chills because it gives me fucking chills every time I say it. But I start to think about, what happened? Why didn't this work? And I got out of the car and I walked through these trees and shrubs. And I walked behind the car, and about 3 or 4 meters behind the car, there was a massive oil ditch. And after looking at that, looking at the car, I worked out that probably it would have been my front left tyre hit this ditch, knocked me out of the way of the tree, missed by 30 centimetres. Crashed straight into bushes. Kind of shit that you see on movies. The shit that if you line that up again today, it wouldn't happen. And, I think that moment sticks with me so vividly, especially now that I'm a father. And I speak about it a lot because I think there's a lot of power in speaking about it, because when I was sitting in that car, and a lot of people now that are in crisis mode or in crisis stage, they're sitting there and all they think about is the pain to go away. And I think that we speak about a lot with victims' families is people don't take their lives because they don't want to live anymore. They take their lives because they just want the pain to stop. And it's so true. So me sitting there in the car looking at that tree, I didn't think about my future. I didn't think about my family. I didn't think about my friends. But the biggest thing I didn't think about is what I could bring to this world. And that's my daughter. My 6-year-old daughter, who is my fucking life. She's my best friend. She's my everything. And she wasn't born then. And every single time, she's got this special gift. If I'm going to lose my shit on this podcast and cry, it'll be over her. She's got this really special gift that, if she was in this room right now, she wouldn't leave it until everyone's smiling. And whenever I see her do that, whenever I see her make other people happy and make other people smile, I think that's why I miss a tree. I didn't miss a tree to travel and do events. I love that. I love everything that I do. I didn't miss a tree for that. I missed a tree so that my daughter could bring happiness to other people. My daughter could bring happiness to me, to my friends, to my family, to my mother. And every single time I see her do that and bring that happiness and joy, it takes me back to that, sitting in the car. And when we're in that moment, we don't think about our future. But that's the number one moment that we have to think about. Your future needs you, and you don't even know what your future is. I didn't see that beautiful little girl when I was sitting there. And when I think back now, it breaks my heart to think if I hit that tree, where that little girl would be now. What life would be different, and the beauty of her coming into the world wouldn't be here. So
I can relate to that from because I'm on the opposite side of it. Like I found my mum dead through suicide when I was 14. And I'm always here, especially with my children as well, thinking, fuck, what, like she's missing out, like at Christmases and birthdays and, so it's beautiful to hear it from that you're living what, how do I explain, like you're living what you're meant to live out, through an accident or God looking out for you, whatever you want to call that, it's meant to be. I actually felt that when you said it, I was thinking, no, it's because the universe, you weren't ready to go,
Yeah.
Which is a whole topic in itself. But what sort of comes up when you say that, man, like with my mum, you know, like she must have been in that crisis mode. I've never heard that being said, you know, and I know that she was very much ready to go, man. Like she just, I mean, I was the last person to speak to her the night before, and you know, my last words were to her was like, "Mum, I'll see you in the morning." She's like, "I love you too, son. I'll see you in the morning." And at the time, she was even writing her suicide note as I'm going into the room, you know. And I sometimes always look back, going, like, how the fuck could she be doing that, man? Like, like for me, being a father, I can't quite understand how the fuck you can do something like that, especially if your kids come in and said, "I love you, I'll see you in the morning." And so, yeah, man, it was pretty awesome that you, like, I mean, that's just what I got out of your story, bro. It's just like that, like the Christ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that crisis mode, crisis stage
mode,
is something that we don't speak about enough. You know, it's a frightening place to be.
Well, I think the other thing that what's important that that I've got out of what you've just mentioned, bro, is that for those that it's something to be watch out for as well, because they say it's like, you know, most people that are suicidal or the ones that are going to attempt suicide are the ones that you don't know about, man.
Yeah.
And it's generally because they're at peace with doing it, I guess.
Absolutely.
I'd imagine.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Not to say that people that always say, "I'm going to take my life" and shit like that you should not worry about, but it's generally the people that have taken their own life and been successful at it have been the ones that you never expected.
Yeah, absolutely.
To some extent, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Shauna, what do you relate now? If you were to go back into that space, or if that space, did that space happen again after that tree accident? Like, did you get into that sort of space again? And what, and obviously that revelation, like, you know, like, and what do you use? You know, because I think, you know, I'll be honest to talk to you, like, so my, that's fucking real, yeah. I've got to be real.
Fucking real,
I
bro.
I can't be.
We're here, boys.
Get it out.
So my father passed from sort of overdose, and I had to think where we left when I was 2, and then we're supposed to meet many times, and he never came, and I was just left waiting a lot of times, and you know, father, you go through all the things of not being good enough, you know, not wanted, not important enough, like, so my self-worth was like shot to pieces growing up. And then mum went through her own things as well with different partners and violence in the house, so all sorts of things. But it just came down to that sort of self-worth. And I went through, you know, we talked about doing some work. I've been doing some breath work and some healing and some trauma healing, and going through and looking at that childhood trauma and bringing it back and working on it. And starting off, it was very hard and really hard to work through it. And then we went to another level with it, and it was a level where I had to, I mean, there's so many parts of it, just to break it down simply, it was a level where I had to forgive myself. And when I think, like, I haven't really been that bad a person in life, you know, considering like what I grew up around. But forgiving myself was such a hard sticking point with my therapist, and I could not bring myself to do it. And then eventually got to the point where I did it. It took me like an hour, like to get to that point. And I remember going home, and this is last year, it's like 4 or 5 months ago. I remember going home, and I've got a beautiful family, like loving, caring wife. I've got a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, and 2-year-old, two older girls and one younger boy. And I was going through thinking, like, how, you know, like, and not thinking about them, but thinking about the pain that I've been hiding from my whole life, you know, through fighting, pretty much. And then through this identity of being the extrovert, the happy guy, you know, makes everyone else laugh, makes everyone else happy, being that guy my whole life. But doing that to hide from who I really am, which is a really fucking...
They call it like the veil, hey? Like I've heard it.
Hurt child, you know, like really hurt fucking child. So I went through that, like, and I was planning, okay, so if I did it, how am I going to do it? if I did it, what will happen with the kids, with the wife? How can I make sure I can set everything up so it's going to do as little, start speaking honestly, like do as little damage as possible. And to say that and to think about that, like that's a mind blowing to me that I was thinking of that, and then thinking about how to do it and then I got to the point where, like, I was like, okay, so this is what happened to your dad. So obviously in the family, whatever things run in the family, like there's got to be something that you can go to or something that in that moment that will remind you or take you back to that moment at the tree where you go, no, like I am meant for more than that, or, like I have more than that. Like I am worth. I am worth more than that.
And was it at that point? Like, what was it?
Yeah,
because obviously you're here today.
To me, I went through all of it. Like, okay, I can't do that to my kids, and I can't do that to my wife, and I can't do that to so I went through everything externally, and it wasn't enough, And I fucking love my kids, man. They're fucking amazing, I went through all of that stuff. And then I come to the point where I looked at it and I just did not want to be that, and all the external things and as beautiful as my family and everything was, that was not strong enough to the I just didn't want to be that. I did not want to be. I did not want them to go through and be what I had to go through and be. That was what sort of. That pulled me out, that's what sort of pulled me out of it. And then just to keep continuing this work on myself and
again going back to what you said before, bro, is like just trusting in your principles and I keep going back to, because I've been in those situations too, man. Like with like my journey, I still haven't told my story yet, but struggling with mental health. Hence why I'm doing this as well. While we're all doing it, I guess. But in those times, man, like, I mean, there's a word that floats around, finding your why or your purpose. A lot of us can find it in our children and stuff like that. But I liked what you said earlier on as well, man, of just like trusting in your principles as well, man. Like fucking you are a solid cunt, you are a good person, man. You do have strong values. There is more to life, because but fuck me, man. And I was actually speaking to a really good friend in the car today, funny enough, and we were talking about the same subject. And it's like, why the fuck is it that sometimes our brains can just turn against us, man?
Yeah.
To the point of like 1 minute we're fucking life couldn't get any better. Like we've got our children, we're good fathers, we're healthy, we've got fucking good family and friends around us, to then just going, you are a worthless piece of shit. Like fucking, like, why are you even alive for, and having those moments,
you
bro.
You can't handle this pain.
Yeah, man. It's fucking crazy.
It's a savage thing, isn't it? I think because we're our own.
Thanks for sharing that too, bro.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah,
thank you too, Sean.
We're our own worst enemy. I think it's like when we get into those moments, and I'm so glad that you said you look at all those external things and that wasn't enough. That's so fucking powerful, man. Because in that, a lot of people in that, when we lose someone. To suicide, there's all these people externally. Oh, how the fuck could they do that? That's it. The whole word of selfish used to be thrown around and all that sort of stuff. And I get that from an external point of view when you don't see what's going on. You don't see the trauma that's inside. We worked with a family recently of a man that he had two beautiful daughters. They were 16, about 21. And he died by suicide, and we were speaking to the daughters, and and one of them said to me, she's like, we're so glad he's at peace. He said he went through childhood trauma, sexual abuse as a child, drug abuse, all that sort of stuff. And although they are absolutely heartbroken, they know that their dad's at peace. The trauma that he stayed with for so long, it's gone now, and people don't look at it like that, and that's understandable. It's a hard way to look at it, but childhood trauma is such a massive impact when it comes to suicide ideation, self-harm, depression, mental health, that we don't delve into it enough. And I think that's where therapists come in. I've got a therapist now who has unreeled shit that I didn't even know was there. You know, just some shit that you think, oh, fuck, that was pretty messed up. What happened when I was 7, you know, that. But being able to have those conversations, it unravels so many things where you can start to understand things a little bit more. And you can start to do that self-love of, oh, look what I've been through. You know, if I've been through that and it's made me into the man I am today, I can continue to go through this, and I can find a path out of this area and continue on.
But like you said, that understanding, that's why it's so important to talk to people. Like, and I think, you know, getting together with your with your tribe, with your people, getting that thing, or seeing a therapist, like it's so important. You want to be good at, you know, boxing. You go see a coach. You know, like you know, you look up videos. You try and figure it out. You want to not feel so down about yourself, or so upset at yourself, or so hard on yourself. Go see someone about it. Like, it should just be like, oh, that's normal. Yeah, just go see someone. It's not like, oh, he's going to see. I'll be like, man, wicked. Did you go see someone? Fuck, awesome. How was it? You know, tell me your story. How, you know, like, I'll tell you my story. Like, it should be something we just share, and like that's cool. Yeah, that you gave yourself that love and opportunity to go seek some assistance with yourself, man. Well, we didn't get a rule book when we were born, bro.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know? Well, that's the whole purpose of this podcast too, man. Like, I mean, fuck, the conversation we've just had, it's normalizing those sort of conversations, and that's why I thank you boys for even being fucking real with like your own personal journeys with it, because it's those conversations that we got to have and normalize this, man. You know, because fucking like we were saying before, at the pub, 90% of the men in the room can relate to something along those fucking lines. And childhood trauma is massive, man. I fucking like it's a big part of what I deal with as well, mentally. And I just wanted to open up this space now to even talk about what are some of the things you can deal with, because it's one to say, man, I'm feeling this fucking dark cloud over my head, or you know, like, you know, suicidal thoughts, or just fucking struggling to get out of bed, or not enjoying life, you know, but to really navigate, especially with childhood trauma, man, it's a bit of a journey, man, you know. And yes, you can start with counselling and things like that, but I know what's your thoughts about like other avenues? I know we were talking about breath work comes up a lot, man. I think that's fucking one of the best. And you know, I personally like plant-based medicine as well, which I'm happy to talk about. But I know that's not for everyone. But breath work, man. I mean, have we all done?
Yeah, I did breath work. One of our ambassadors, Leah, she is in Byron Bay, and just an absolute legend of a person. And she invited me up last year, and we did a breathwork session. And I was a little bit not critical, but I was like, oh, like it's 5:30 in the morning. I'd rather be on a run or go to the gym or in bed. And I was like, no, meet me at the beach. We'll do this breathwork session. And 10 minutes in, I was laying on the ground, tears rolling down my face. And it just opened up so many things that I had no idea were so deep down. And I remember, I don't know if you've ever experienced this when you're doing it, but I was laying there and my whole body was shaking, and it wasn't cold, but I was shivering. And she just comes over and just like, you know, tries to calm me down and touched me on the shoulder, and she said, it's okay, you're safe, it's all right. And I came out of it and I was just amazed. You know, it probably went for about an hour, and it let out so many emotions. It opened up so many avenues. So yeah, for breath work, for me, breath work is something that I try and practice as much as I possibly can. But I think an important thing what you just said is, you know, it may not be for you, and I think that's a really big thing, is doing what it works for you. We talk a lot about positive mental health practices, and that might be heading home and playing Xbox for 3 hours with your mates. You know, it might be going fishing by yourself. It might be going to the pub with a mate and having a beer. We all have these different positive mental health practices. And another thing that we talk about is these positive mental health practices aren't just for you. they're for your family, for your loved ones, because if you're doing these things that make you happy, you're giving the people that love you the most the very best version of you.
Yeah.
You know, if I used to think, you know, the weekends that I had my daughter, I used to go to the gym every single Saturday. And so I'd have to say, right, I'll take you to a mate's house and you can hang there while I go to the gym. And for a while, I'm like, oh, geez, you're a selfish prick. Like it's your weekend with your daughter. Just be with your daughter. And then I realised, well, no, I need to do this, because if I don't go to the gym, I'm a grumpy arsehole. I'm a shit dad. But if I go to the gym for an hour and get my hour in and do what I need to do, I get home and I'm happy. I feel good, happy endorphins. And that's where those positive mental health practices come in. So whatever it is, golf, fishing, going to the gym, reading a book, whatever it is, we've got to practice it more.
And it goes back to what you talk about on the aeroplane, man. Like, you got to be the best version of yourself, so everyone else gets the best version of you as well.
It's all for them.
For sure.
And what a way to lead, like, for your daughter, like, you know, for her to grow up and see that doing something positive, like exercising for your own health, mentally, physically, everything, that's so important to you, that she sees you doing that growing up.
Yeah.
And now you're leading the way for her to go, hey, being like, you know, doing something for my own health and happiness is so important. It comes at the top of the priority list. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A beautiful moment actually happened. That just made me remember last Saturday, the gym I go to now. She can come with me, so I'll put her there, give her the iPad, give her heaps of food, and she just goes nuts. And we got home after the gym, and I said, "Thanks for coming to the gym with me, babe." And she said, "Daddy, you always thank me for going to the gym." And I just said, "Mike, you don't understand how important it is, Dad." Yeah. I'm like, I appreciate it. It's just like when we go to the playground and you say, "Thanks for taking me to the playground, Dad."
That's
you
cool,
know,
man.
your playground is like my gym. And she's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, it means a lot to me. Just like going for a ride on the bike means a lot to you. So I think that's a really cool way of looking at it, of getting those positive mental health practices in for them just as much as for yourself.
Yeah.
And just like your gym too, Dan, you know, like, I mean, you have kids programs there.
Yeah.
And I mean, fucking, what is that like for you, bro? Like, I mean, like to also have your kids involved in the gym too, man. I know that a lot of gyms are now encouraging their kids to get involved, depending on what age they are, obviously. But
yeah, definitely. Oh, it's been that was like my favorite thing at the gym when we started. It was our kids academy. You know, we had we have 4 to 7 year old group, 8 to 12-year-old group, and our teenagers. And starting off, you know, we're building it up from sort of scratch, and that was some of my fondest memories of what we built in the gym was you know, that building that tribe and that belonging, and that place that they could come to for some positive reinforcement and get some physical health, but also some mental health and some support. And you know, you'd have kids come in, they learn to, you know, they know they can open up to you because you talk to them and treat them with respect and with openness. You know what I mean? You welcome them in no matter how they are, good, bad, this, that, whatever. Like, you welcome them in and give them a place to be themselves, you know, through the martial arts.
I fully encourage anyone with mental health to get into some sort of fighting gym, man. You know, if it's boxing or Muay Thai or, you know, like, not only is it a physical thing that, you know, gets the blood pumping and stuff, but I think there's something in your mental when you're teaching pad work and combos and how to punch and your feet work and stuff like that. It also activates different parts of the brain. Sure. Not that I'm Dr. Phil, mate, but
I think that just made me think of, I've done a little bit of boxing and Muay Thai as well, and I think, I don't know if Danny, you can agree with this, but my coach, he was a little Thai bloke and he was just nuts, and he used to, if I put the guard down, it would just whack straight to the face. And at start, I was like, "Oh, you fucking little prick!" But at the end of it, I'm just like, that's actually kind of shit I need, because, you know, once you get hit, you get that idea that you can get hit and you can keep on going, and that goes back to a little bit of mental health too. You know, you got to get these hits, and you know, I started to just really enjoy it. You know, when he hit me, I'm like, right, bang, let's go. That's happened. We're over it now. Let's get on with it. let's fix it so it doesn't happen again. Or if it does happen again, we're more prepared for it. So, I agree. Fighting, gym, fitness, all that sort of stuff.
And community, man.
Community is everything. You know, being part of something. You know, being part of something is so powerful when it comes to mental health, to your physical health, to your social anxiety, all that sort of stuff. Just being part of a community where you feel safe and feel like you're a part of something that's moving forward is so great, especially with the young kids. For sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Is there with your mental health journey, Dan?
Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, obviously fighting has been a big part of your support. Like, what is there anything else, man, that you're sort of practicing or recommend, or any things that have sort of helped you with dealing with your mental health, man?
Yeah. It's gone through like different stages, but I've always, I think, because I've battled it so hard, I've always reached for support somehow, somewhere through different sort of modalities or different sort of people. But at the moment, what I'm really enjoying, I've been doing a lot of breath work, which again is, I think, is just incredible. It really opens you up. But also reading the Wim Hof book as well, and looking into breathing and like breath work and breathing. But just
you're doing the ice baths and
things? That's what I was going to say. So I really got started getting into the ice baths, but I started doing it as a bit like, it's a bit of a challenge, you know. But now it's not. It's sort of like it's centering and balancing me. And I realized, like, you know, I push hard and I go 100 miles an hour every day and try and do so many things. And when you sit in that, I tell you, you put your feet in the ice bath, not even going in. You can't think about those 10 things you were thinking of 5 minutes ago. You're just thinking about how to handle this, like, you know, 4 degree temperature, you know. And then like pushing yourself to sit in it and then lay in it, like it's just ridiculous. But like, you know, but anyone can do it. Like to me that sort of thing, like finding time to stop. And I've been doing the bit of the Wim Hof stuff at the moment. Like wake up and just before I reach for the phone and start, what do I got to do? What's my task list? You know, like. I get up, I've got the kids, got this, got that, got this. Like, there's a million things to do before I even step out the door to work. Like, before I get up and get into that, stop and breathe. And I've been taking in, do 30, like, really big, full, drawn-in breaths, open up the belly, and then just let it go. Open up. Just let it go. And I do that 30 times, and I get up and I'm like, okay, all right, like it actually like centers and balances me, whether it's meditation, whether it's whatever. Like all I'm focusing on is that breath for a minute, you know, a minute and a bit. And I do that, and I don't do it once or twice, whatever I feel like I want to do it that day. And that in itself just sort of centers and balances me and sort of makes me less flighty in a sense, you know. The ground really helps ground me. And then I sort of start the day, and I've been doing it. I started doing it when I come home from work, because I come home from work, I'm like, get in the house, I'm like, you know, it's like you come home from work, and now I'm like, okay, you got to go clean up that, you pick up that, you do this, and my wife's saying, okay, that's over there, that's got to be turned off, and like, just come in and start directing. It's not like, you know, not at work, not at the gym, not in the class, you know what I mean? Like, so I've been coming home and I do that in the car, 30 sort of breaths, and then get in there, I'm like, and I get in, I'm like, and I see the kids, I'm like, hey, like, and I just light up to see the kids, and then my wife, Sam, hey, like, you know, how are you? You know, like not what's all these things going on. It's like, how are you? How are you? And then what a reciprocation that I get from that, man. What I receive, I'm like, fuck, this is fucking heaven, bro.
Yeah, I actually like, and it's good that you brought that up, man. Like a lot of people, a lot of men, and on this podcast, man, talk about that whole. You've just had a fucking massive day at work, and you get home, and then there's this list of things to do. Man, the 30, the Wim Hof 30 deep breath thing before you walk in the door, man, is fucking good, because then you're making yourself present, centering yourself. You're walking in, you're there with the children, and then you're ready to take on that list.
I think it's a lot of the psychology of that is amazing too, because often when we wake up, our job is to, and this is, something that we don't really realise, but our job is to do things for other people all day.
Yeah.
We get up, we get the kids ready for school, we take them to school.
Yep.
We go to work, we train people, we do this, we do that, we reply to emails. So we're trying to cater for other people. So if we wake up and jump in an ice bath, that is 5-10 minutes. This is doing something for myself, and whether it's the deep breathing and stuff like that, it's just me time, and that dopamine levels of when we satisfy ourselves, and don't take that the wrong way, but when we satisfy ourselves, that gives us that that hit of I feel good, I'm okay, I'm centered, I'm right. It's the same level if we sit there and have a big dirty meal of something and it makes us feel really good. It's that big hit of dopamine of this is just for me. It might have lasted 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but it's for me, and now I can give everyone else.
And you got communication in a relationships too, man. It's one to be, you got to be vulnerable and open about what the needs you need as a human as well, man. I mean, to have that best version of yourself. So if that list, just to make a bit of a joke of it, but that list that you come home, you need to verbalize, hey, can we just shorten that list from 10 to 5 most days, and being open about it, because I need this time to go and sit out the back after my day to wind down or to have that ice bath Well,
that's what I think, like, what you use to sort of regulate yourself, to calm yourself down, whatever you use like that, I think it's just incredible. And I think we're putting it in at the gym, the ice bath and infrared sauna, so we can do the contrast therapy, because I've been doing that a bit as well. And it's just how you feel when you get out. It's euphoric, like you feel euphoric, and you're doing something and you're feeling that way, but not having alcohol, not having drugs, not having anything external come into your body. It's you. Your body is producing that internally, which I think is just incredible. And being able to do that yourself at will, like, lock it into your discipline, lock it into your schedule and do it consistently, I think it's just incredible the results you get from that. And then adding the breathing to that, it's just helping center yourself,
I like that, bro, because even with the drinking, sometimes you're a little bit stressed out, or emotions are getting high, and that's probably one of the things I do sort of struggle with a little bit still, is sort of like, you just need that wind down thing. So if it's just one beer or a glass of wine or something just to ease you down. But now being totally sober, it's sort of like you're trying to look for something to get it, So, but breath is something I do regularly, man. And even like there's the because we had the breath code on here with my last podcast.
Awesome.
They're in Melbourne and over here in Perth, and we put a 5-minute down regulation breath work on there for everyone to use. And even just doing that 5-minute breath work, man, just centers yourself, brings you back down. Sure. Something so simple. 5 minutes, man, like you said. What haven't we covered, boys? I mean, I'm going to probably just wrap it up, but have we...
Oh, that we've dived into, I think, 100 different things. It's been great.
It's been great.
Hopefully we can make it a regular thing when you're over here, man.
Absolutely.
I love having you on.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love getting over here. It's a beautiful part of the country. And as we spoke about before we start hitting record, WA, they give a shit about mental health. It is the best state that when it comes to events, when it comes to partnerships, to sales, when it comes to merchandise, WA leads it by a long way. So don't know what's in the water over here, but you guys really care, and I absolutely love it. So
we'll let you out alive after that, brother.
Yeah.
Tell us again the details for the Shaka ball.
Yeah, so it's March 16th, so coming up in a few weeks.
You're a promotion, man.
I know. I'll send me your voice. Ticket. We're almost sold our tickets. Actually, we've only about 50 tickets left. So it's just another example of how good WA are. It's been an amazing response. So down at the Beaumont on Point, beautiful space. I went down there today and met the guys down there. It's absolutely amazing. So, as I mentioned at the start, it's a night to ignite the conversation. It's a night for people to come along, have some fun, have a drink, have a meal, but also create some sort of change. Create an impact when they go to school, when they go to work, when they go to the footy club the week after. Continue on. It's going to be a tough night. It's going to be a hard night. They always are very open and vulnerable, essentially like a podcast, but everyone's wearing suits. My goal with all these events is just to get that conversation going, ignite it, make people want to talk about it. And if one person can walk away and think, all right, I'm going to go and seek some support, or one person's going to go and text one friend or two friends or three friends, the power of a check-in is amazing. I could talk another half an hour about that. But yeah, if they can do that, then it's a successful night for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool, bro.
We've got a few of our gym coming. One a good friend of mine for a long time, Josh Johnson,
Legend.
WA. He's the one that invited me and said, come along, and I thought, we'll get into it and get a few of the others from the gym coming, and going to bring my
Who's
wife
Josh?
Sam along. Josh Johnson, he's cool, man. He's a cool dude. He's I actually, I don't, your story with him, Sean, tell him as well. I actually went back. When I first came back from Thailand when I was younger, I was looking for a new gym to work out of and be at, and it was at Kalamunda, and Joshy was one of the top sort of guys there fighting. So I was still fighting at the time, so we ended up training together. He became like a big training partner of mine for years and years, and he's now working with me in the gym at Legends and as a fight team head coach, like with Chris Watt, and just what he brings to the table. He does it at school, like what he brings to the table is opening up conversations, and I see how he checks in with the members, and he's, someone says, oh, how you going? You're like, oh yeah, good mate, yeah, good, where he'd be like, how are you going? And he looks at you, and he's sort of like, yeah, well, actually, he pulls it out of you.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, you tell us, Sean, as well. What's your background with Josh?
Yeah, Josh is one of our ambassadors. So we're lucky enough to have about 2,000 ambassadors from around Australia.
Yep.
So we just connected there. The most amazing thing about this project is I've made lifelong friends through mental health.
Yep.
Now, 10 years ago, that just wouldn't be a thing. I have all these friends from Perth, from New Zealand, from the UK that I've met all over Australia that I can call up at any time and just have a chat about mental health, and it's been amazing. And Josh is one of them, and he's just another example of a normal Aussie bloke that can make a massive impact. And we often see these celebrities, sport players, all that sort of stuff that come out and talk about mental health, which is awesome. It's great to see. But we don't talk about it enough. The average Joe, the school teacher, the bloke who owns the pub, the footy coach that is out there doing the hard yards that we never see. We never see the impact that is out there doing the hard work when it comes to saving young men, young women, when it comes to igniting the conversation. I've met so many blokes who, if you said to them, "Hey, I want to get you on the podcast," they're like, "Nah, I don't need validation of what I'm doing. I just want to do it because it's the right thing to do." Yeah. There are so many people out there that are doing
I want to call out
things.
Josh onto the podcast.
Yeah,
Josh.
get him on.
Where are you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll team up at the ball. We'll get him there for sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
But he's a great bloke. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
For sure.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Well, boys, thanks for coming on. This podcast has been gifted to me in terms of like the universe giving it being part of my journey, man. But the doors are always open. So like I say, when you're in Perth, bro, I'd love to have you on here, having another group chat like this.
Yeah.
Brother, we got you here, Dan.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming, mate. But I know this is only one of many to come as well,
Awesome,
bro.
brother.
I really appreciate you being here and both of you opening up your stories, man, and inspiring those who are going to watch this too. Like, it's fucking awesome, man. And it just, warms my heart, man.
Thank you for having the platform. The platforms like this are what create change. So, give yourself a pat on the back too.
100%.
Yeah, cheers,
sure.
mate. Cool. Till
Thanks,
next time, boys.
Awesome. Till next time.
All right.